Number 15. Rats. While subliminal messaging in advertising and elsewhere is illegal in many countries, the US does not have specific laws against it. The use of subliminal messaging in advertising is decided by federal law enforcement. Being as such, what kind of ads might benefit from subliminal messaging? Certainly product ads. But what about political ads?
George Bush has a plan. Bureaucrats decide. The Bush prescription plan, seniors choose.
Political groups always have an agenda, usually that the opposition is wrong and their party is right. So it's not a big stretch to think that political parties may have tested out some subliminal messaging in their ads. That's what Al Gore accused George W. Bush's campaign managers of doing. During the contentious 2000 presidential election, Gore claims that an attack ad that was put out by the Republican campaign managers used subliminal messaging. According to Gore, the ad misrepresented the healthcare policies that he put out and was also created to tarnish his reputation. In the video, Gore claims that the word rats flashes on the screen for a brief moment prior to the ad's message that reads, "Bureaucrats."
Bureaucrats decide.
Was Bush and company hoping that subliminal message would sink in and that voters would consider Gore amongst the rats and crooks in Washington? Number 14. An unexpected message. When you see ads on race cars, you probably don't take them in much. After all, you're watching the sport, not consciously absorbing the advertising. But one company found a way around that. The Marlboro Man was banned from TV due to an attempt to cut out this type of advertising after the general public realized smoking is not in fact good for your health. But one of America's top brands weren't interested in Americans cutting back, so they sought a way to continue advertising subliminal messaging. Before the mid-90s, these brands covered race cars bumper to bumper, but Europe had banned this kind of company sponsors. And as the millennium turned on their advertising, Formula One turned with it. Marlboro, however, wasn't interested in disappearing. Instead, they decided to sneak their brand onto race cars, not using their typical logo, but rather a design in the style of a barcode. As the race cars sped around the tracks, traveling at speeds of up to 200 miles per hour, the design could be recognized for what it was. The regulatory organizations were not fooled though. European lawmakers came under pressure by the European Public Health Commission, and they eventually banned the company's shrewd subliminal messaging too. Number 13. Live Walmart intercom broadcast. Have you ever wondered what the live broadcasts of encoded messages over the intercom at Walmart mean? Redditor Lucent Nargacuga has the answer. This person claims to work at Walmart, and spoiler alert, all of the secret Walmart codes are kept on the back of their Walmart badges. The codes are as follows. Code white means there's been an accident. You might hear a code white if there's a spill on aisle 5. Code blue is a bomb threat. If you hear code blue called over the intercom, get out of the Walmart. Code red is for a fire. Again, hightail it out of there. Code black is for bad weather. If a storm is brewing, like a tornado, flooding, or a hurricane, this is the code that might be called in the store. Code green means there's a hostage situation underway. One of the scarier codes to be heard over the intercom, I would think. Code orange is for chemical mishaps. Perhaps a spill of some sort. Code Adam means there's a missing child. On this one, keep your eyes peeled so that you might help find him or her. Code brown is for a shooting situation. Again, you might want to get out of Dodge on this one. So now that you know all of the Walmart codes, keep your eyes and ears peeled at the superstore if you wish to be in the know about what's going on around you. Number 12. The air horn. The air horn was first heard in 2017, and Russia is the location it's being broadcast from. It's believed to be a new Russian military network. The frequency is 4020, and the marker is Enigma. The air horn was first heard in 2017, and Russia is the location it's being broadcast from. It's believed to be a new Russian military network. The frequency is 4020, and the marker is Enigma. The air horn was first heard in 2017, and Russia is the location it's being broadcast from. It's believed to be a new Russian military network. The frequency is 4020, and the marker is Enigma. only information available for the air horn is that it is a typical multi-vibrator based marker generator and is likely created with special equipment. It's a monolith AC system used to transmit control signals for central command remotely. Well, this air horn is quite obviously an encoded message of some kind. What that encoded message is, we can only guess. Number 11, Egyptian Muppet. Abla Fahita is an Egyptian Muppet. She's a felt puppet who appeared on a Vodafone commercial in Egypt, but is she secretly a radical? The puppet is being accused of broadcasting encoded messages to anti-government organizations in Egypt as the Egyptian military government began a wide-scale suppression of opposition resistance against those in power. The puppet was called out by the government for being a terrorist agent for the Muslim Brotherhood, a banned movement in Egypt that supported the ousted President Morsi. Abla Fahita was said to have delivered encoded bomb threats in the Vodafone commercial. How might a puppet deliver these threats? In the commercial, the puppet talks on the phone, asking how to retrieve her husband's SIM card after he passed away. She said it was lost at a shopping mall, and perhaps a sniffer dog could find it. The word sniffer dog was suggested by some to be an encoded message broadcast to those people involved listening, charging them to attack a shopping mall. Some conspiracy theorists also see symbolic secret messages in the background of the ad, suggesting that a cactus tree with Christmas ornaments near Fahita suggests an attack on Christianity, with the ornaments being bombs. As horrible acts rocked Egypt after the popular 2013 uprising, the government's paranoia grew, while Vodafone insisted that such allegations against their puppet were mere imagination. It grew enough for Fahita to be required to justify herself in a Skype interview with the nation's CBC network, stating that she was only a comedic character. Others mocked the investigation into the puppet, with some tweeting "Free Fahita." However, the Egyptian Ministry of Interior is not interested in being mocked, and they put out the following statement: "We do not know whether these are true symbols or fake symbols in order to confuse the state's apparatus. Either way, it's against the law. The administrators of Abla Fahita should be questioned according to the law, and we are waiting the prosecution's warrant to arrest those administrators and those who cooperated with them, whether the words and symbols in this commercial were an encoded message or not. The Egyptian government is taking them very seriously." Number 10, Chinese Robot. The People's Liberation Army Air Force allegedly uses a station called Chinese Robot that's been active since 2000. They use the station in two speeds, original and slow, the latter of which started to be used in January 2013. Transmissions are given speedily in Mandarin and are often spoken in 20 to 36 digit sequences. There are no set schedules for these transmissions, and it seems they are often given on two random frequencies, not at the same time. The two broadcasts may be given at the same speed or at different speeds, and they often use different sidebands to send their encoded messages. Number 9, Scientists to Aliens. Are you intelligent? Is there life out there? Are we alone in the universe? These are the questions that SETI astronomer and scientists want answered. While getting the answers to these questions may seem a wild stretch, perhaps extraterrestrial communication is not so far away. In fact, capabilities are available right now, and scientists have broadcast a message using the encoded message system of radio waves called sonar calling GJ273b. The Messaging Extraterrestrial Intelligent International, or METI, organization notes that it might take 25 years for intelligent life to respond, if they even receive the message. The message to the extraterrestrials included details on humankind's understanding of time, as well as info on basic science and math. The purpose of this was to ensure that extraterrestrials were intelligent and could understand humans in the way we might understand them. The message was sent from Norway's SCAT transmitter toward GJ273, a red dwarf star. GJ273 is at a distance of 12 light years, approximately 70.56 trillion miles from Earth. METI chose this exoplanet due to it being visible from the northern hemisphere. Some bigwigs, including Stephen Hawking, caution the scientific community against initiating contact with extraterrestrials. This is not the first encoded message shot into space. One was sent in 1974 to the M13 star cluster, which is 25,000 light years away. No response yet. Number 8. Reality TV secret messages. Other purportedly encoded messages spotted in live broadcasts involved the contestants Rebecca Vardy and Dennis Wise on the reality TV show I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. Some viewers spotted these two contestants sending secret messages to their kids while they were thousands of miles away from them for 3 weeks in a jungle. According to some, when Dennis, a former football player, and Rebecca are on screen, they often appear with encoded messages to their families. Rebecca has a blatant encoded message that doesn't take a genius to crack, a heart alongside the letter U drawn with charcoal on her jungle hat. Most viewers consider this to be a message to her children and her husband Jamie back home, but Dennis's messages are more encoded. When they come into camp for the live show sets, he touches his chest over his heart. Many think this is to send his love back to his family. While the contestants are not allowed to communicate with their families, which is part of the challenge, these two contestants seem to have found a way to send encoded messages anyway. Makes you wonder how many more subtle personal messages may be appearing on reality TV shows. Number 7. Obey the government. The national anthem is probably the last place you'd look for encoded messages, but one 60s broadcast of the US national anthem was allegedly riddled with subliminal messages. Consider the era. The 60s was the height of Cold War paranoia. It was also the decade of numerous political assassinations, such as the Kennedys and Martin Luther King Jr., as well as a time when mind control was of particular interest, as youth uprisings were alive and well. This was also a period when television stations closed out their broadcasts, with the national anthem playing over patriotic themes, think soldiers, flags, etc. These sign-offs were expected, but what probably wasn't expected was encoded messages hidden in this theme. What sort of messages were found there? According to VigilantCitizen.com, trust the US government, God is real, God is watching, believe in government God, rebellion will not be tolerated, obey, consume, buy Ultra, buy Naomi, worship, consume, obey, believe, do not question government. These encoded messages are slipped in so quickly that the subconscious mind absorbs them without knowing and without dissecting. According to author Steve Jacobson, who wrote Mind Control in the United States, subliminal perception is a deliberate process created by communications technicians by which you receive and respond to information and instructions without being consciously aware of the instructions. While some research concludes that subliminal messaging does not work, other research is contrary. However, either way, the purpose of the subliminal messages in this video seems clear. Obey the US government and consume more products. The quotes about Naomi and Ultra may be referring to two CIA projects, MK Naomi and MK Ultra. MK Naomi involved biological warfare, while MK Ultra involved mind control. Both were kept secret from the general public. So was this actual proof of the US government taking these experiments further by plugging their subliminal messages into television broadcasts? Some might say, of course it is, but others think the video is a hoax. The video was uploaded to YouTube in 2009, and no conclusive evidence is available to confirm its authenticity. The uploader claims to have found the film reel from a local television station in Alabama, after which it took viewers 2 years to discover the subliminal messages. So is it real or fake? You decide. Number 6. Mainsail out. The US Air Force transmits coded messages to aircrafts across the globe via a network of transmitters using a high-frequency global communication system, or HFGCS. The operation codes are used for air-to-ground communication as well, and the coded traffic on this system is called Emergency Action Messages, or EAM, although this title is inaccurate, as most of the messages are not an emergency. The coded traffic on this system often is composed of long number and letter combinations, sent out quite often, sometimes twice every hour. When the encoded message is broadcast across the system, the operator repeats the message's first 6 characters 3 times and then says "stand by." After this repetition, the entire message is broadcast, after which the operator states "I say again," and the entire message is repeated. The message is completed by the airbase from which it came and the word "out." The final word differs from that given from July 2013 to April 2015. Rather than finishing with "out," the collective encoded call sign for the network's ground stations was "mainsail," so "mainsail out" was how every message was closed. Moreover, the Sky King call sign on this system was delivered by the Army Materiel Command and Army Contracting Command of the United States Strategic Command. These messages are given priority to cut into any on-air traffic. The Sky King call signs is delivered to missile crews and aircrafts belonging to the single integrated operation plan. The encoded message is sent in the following way: Sky King, do not answer, followed by an ID of 3-character length, a verbal timestamp, and an authentication code of 2 characters. All is recited twice and intersected by the phrase "I say again." Live broadcasts of these encoded messages may be easy enough to interpret for those in the know, but for us normal people, Sky King sounds pretty intense. Number 5. Whale Song. Broadcast from 2 different sources in England and the US, the Whale Song is a numbers station. Whale Song is named as such because it looks like whales singing. It's also called the backwards music station because, you guessed it, it also sounds like music played backwards. This number station basically is a combination of distorted voices and strange tones, likely hiding encoded messages. What these broadcasted encoded messages could be, we don't know. Whatever they are, it probably has nothing to do with whales. Number 4. Mr. Skylight. Lost at sea. Mr. Skylight is an emergency code word for seafaring vessels, which might be used over the PA system when something goes wrong. For instance, on September 28, 1994, when the MS Estonia used it, the MS Estonia was crossing the Baltic Sea from Tallinn, Estonia to Stockholm, Sweden, with 989 people on board. The ferry hit some rough waves resulting from strong winds, but the weather was described as normally bad by the on-scene commander, who made the rescue effort, meaning the Baltic Sea often experiences such autumn weather, which usually didn't disrupt ferry crossings at sea. The ferry was also tracked by radar, traveling at a normal speed, so speeding was not an issue that sad and fateful day. It was at around 1 a.m. that a loud bang sounded. As a strong wave hit the bow doors, an inspection of the ramp and visor indicated lights revealed no issues, but there were issues. Water was flooding into the vehicle deck and the ferry's 4 engines soon cut out. A female spoke across the PA system at that point, saying in Estonian, "Alarm, alarm, there is alarm on the ship." An eternal alarm was delivered to the crew, after which a lifeboat alarm was sent. The internal alarm included this code language broadcasted live across the PA system: Mr. Skylight to number 1 and 2. This code phrase cites that the crew must seal the hull by shutting the watertight doors. Mayday was also communicated to the crew. The radio operator of Silja Europa was contacted. Estonia's location was not provided to the operator before the electricity cut out. A while later, power returned and their location was communicated, after which the Estonia disappeared from radar. Paul Baker, a University of Lancaster linguist, said of these onboard codes, "I can see very good reasons for having these codes. It may be that people are unsure when they're giving the code, so there's no point upsetting members of the public. In this case, however, there was plenty of reason to be upset, and perhaps earlier warning could have prepared the members of the public and saved many a life." Number 3. Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Not only is the Yankee Hotel Foxtrot the name of Wilco's 2001 album, it's also yet another number station. This one, however, is thought to be operated by the Mossad. It began broadcasting in the 60s, sending transmissions 24/7, also called E10. This number station originated in Tel Aviv in its time, and is said to be run by Israeli intelligence.
Golf, Charlie, Yankee, Charlie, Oscar, Golf, X-ray.
The encoded messages were made by a woman and were made in the phonetic alphabet. The broadcast dwindled in 2010 and cut out altogether on March 1st, 2011. Number 2. Twitter. Twitter doesn't want to be left out of live broadcasting encoded messages, and some believe live tweeting is the future of number stations. Some of these so-called number stations can be found at Number Stations, at Guguns, at XCV-94, and at TruthTrain14. All 4 of these accounts tweet sequences of letters and numbers in periods of hours to minutes, and nobody knows why. Well, some suspect at TruthTrain14 is a number station set up by the GOP to evade Super PAC rules, but what are the others doing? Are they sending encoded messages, or is this just spam? No one knows, but if you're intrepid enough in decoding these number and letter sequences, maybe you'll be the one to find out. And if you are, you better watch your back. Before we get to number 1, my name is Chills and I hope you're enjoying my narration. If you're curious about what I look like in real life, then go to my Instagram at DylanIsChillinYT and tap that follow button to find out. I'm currently doing a super poll on my Instagram. If you believe ghosts are real, then go to my most recent photo and tap the like button. If you don't, DM me saying why. When you're done, come right back to this video to find out the number 1 entry. Also, follow me on Twitter at YTChills because that's where I post video updates. It's a proven fact that generosity makes you a happier person. So if you're generous enough to hit that subscribe button and the bell beside it, then thank you. This way you'll be notified of the new videos we upload every Tuesday and Saturday. Number 1. Hostage Rescue Code. When FARC guerrillas kidnapped soldiers in the Colombian army, some of whom had been hostages for 10 years, Colonel Jose Espinejo had to find a way to communicate with them. He contacted his friend, an advertising executive named Juan Carlos Ortiz, to help him. Ortiz himself had issues with the FARC guerrillas, otherwise known as the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, a group of government-opposed communists who wanted labor reforms, and they were armed. FARC threatened him and his family for putting out an anti-drug ad, which was one of the markets from which they profited. He was transferred by his ad agency to America. When the colonel called him, he requested ideas on how to convey an encoded message that help was on the way to the Colombian hostages. FARC's MO was to take the lives of all the hostages the moment they saw military intervention, so they needed to let the hostages know that they should be ready, as an escape was imminent. But how to do it? The message would have to evade the FARC and be understood by captured soldiers. The message had to be one of hope, prompting the captives to escape. They knew captives thought they'd perish if they tried to escape into the jungle, so they wanted to convey that troops were standing by. They decided the best way to do this was to use Morse code in the advertisement. FARC guerrillas were peasants, and it was doubtful that they'd know Morse code. While many soldiers were taught it in basic training, they decided to input the code in a song in a way that no one who didn't know Morse code could ever detect it. In the process of writing the song, they discovered they could fit approximately 20 words in Morse code into a normal song length without disrupting the beat. So they coded the following message: 19 people rescued, you are next, don't lose hope. The encoded message would be broadcast across radio stations. The lyrics before the Morse code begins were, "Listen to this message, brother." The code was blended into the beat, but the process wasn't seamless. It was difficult because Morse code is not a musical beat, Portela, the music producer, said. Sometimes it was too obvious, other times the code was not understood, and we had to hide it 3 times in the song to make sure the message was received. They titled the song Better Days, and Ortiz described it as a song of freedom. Now, to broadcast it, luckily the radio stations in the jungle regions where the guerrillas held the hostages were controlled by the government, so this wasn't so difficult. Better Days was broadcast on more than 130 stations, 3 million people heard it, and the encoded message worked. The code was heard in the song and passed on to other hostages. Some hostages escaped and gave the army more information, which allowed the army to negotiate a release of additional hostages. As more hostages were released, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos greeted them. "Welcome to liberty, soldiers and policemen of Colombia. Freedom has been very delayed, but now it is yours, to the delight of the whole country."